Hello and Happy New Year. This is my first video for 2020 and I've had a bit of a crazy week already. On New Year's Eve I got stranded in Brisbane actually after having some flight troubles. But luckily I was able to make friends with a couple of strangers I met in the airport who were in the same situation, and we were able to even watch the fireworks together in the hotel that the airline put us all up in. It's been a bit of a crazy week in Australia with heaps of bushfires and it's super smoky outside, which has been, really quite challenging. I even went to go and try to buy an air purifier at the shops, but the entire town had sold out of air purifiers as well as smoke masks. So I had to get the next best thing, which was the 3 last little pots of basil that were at Aldi, and I was thinking that maybe at least they can give me a little bit of oxygen. I know that they probably won't, but that's why this hilariously sad little pot of basil is by my side today. So it's been nearly a year since I uploaded a video called I Quit My PhD, and it's been actually a bit over a year since I did quit my PhD. And I thought I would provide a bit of an update about what I've been up to since then and the things I've done since leaving, and I guess just answer a few of the major questions that I've received after posting that video. I will say I received quite a few comments on that video, or even messages from people saying that it's given them some kind of inspiration to want to leave their own PhDs, which is not the intention of the video at all. And I want people, of course, to make their own decisions, and PhDs, like doing one, can be definitely the right decision sometimes and really good for you. So I don't ever want the purpose of that video I made to make it seem like I'm attacking the PhD system and saying that it's bad. It was just a video that I made because I had to tell you what I was up to and give you an update. I had to let you know that I had decided to leave and that it was the best decision for me to make. So first of all, do I regret leaving my PhD? Well, the answer is no, I don't regret it. And I've done lots of cool things in the year that I've just been kind of out on my own. And I'll go through some of those ups and downs in this video. I don't regret it because even though there have been ups and downs in this last year, I've had an enormous amount of freedom, and the freedom to do what I want and to work on what I want and work when I want. And I think that freedom in working is really important to me, and I think that I'm very lucky to have it. Of course, I'm only able to have it because of my amazing audience and the support from all of my viewers, so thank you for making this last year possible for me and making it possible for me to, I guess, follow my dreams. So I wrote down some of my highlights to tell you about over the last year, and they include things like traveling to Zurich, where I filmed a few videos. I traveled to VidCon in the US, which was amazing. I went to VidCon in Melbourne as well. I gave some talks, including at the University of Sydney and to a group of astronomy students in Brisbane, and I did lots of awesome collaborations with other people like my friend Peter and Jess and Cody from Cody's Lab and Physics Girl, Andrew Dotson. I was in the Flammable Maths recent video, and I was even interviewed on the radio in Australia about being a YouTuber. And what was awesome about that was that Hank Green joined us live on the conversation, and that felt like really a highlight to me because I really look up to Hank. You might have seen me sharing lately on social media that I was involved with this Vsauce 3 collaboration. I was in the Jumanji episode of Could You Survive the Movies, and that was also quite a big highlight of the year. And I just wanted to quickly tell you the story of how that came about, because the whole thing was crazy and random, and I think it's a good story. So I was at VidCon in the US in July this year, and I just went to one of the Vsauce presentations, and it was Vsauce 1, 2 and 3 on the stage in the expo hall with quite a big audience. They were just, talking about themselves and maybe answering some questions, and it was the first event of VidCon, the first event that I went to, and I was a bit late going to the talk because I'd been at registration. Anyway, I walked in about half an hour late to the talk, and I'm trying to walk in the back without bringing too much attention to myself and just minding my own business. But I heard at that time, Michael from Vsauce One was actually talking about some smaller educational creators that he'd met the day before, one of which was me, and he did mention my channel name as I was walking in. He didn't know I was there. But when I heard my name, I gave him a little wave from the audience. I wasn't sure if he'd see me or not, but he did. And he said, "Oh, speaking of Tibbies, there she is now walking in." And so then people turned around and looked at me, and I gave a little wave, and I was a little bit embarrassed, but it was nice. And then Jake from Vsauce 3 was also on stage, and he called out, "Oh, Tibbies, are you around next week? And would you like to do a collaboration?" And I, of course, was super keen, but this was, communicated over, I guess, hundreds of people in the audience. I couldn't really say anything back because I didn't have a mic, so I just did a little thumbs up from the crowd. And then it was kind of organized right then and there in front of everyone. So I think I was just in the right place at the right time. Jake was looking for a physics channel to be part of the video, and I was keen and around, so that's how it happened, and I'm really glad it did. And doing that video was an awesome experience. I got to meet Casey Neistat and do a scene with him, which was something I never thought would happen, and just to see what it's like to be on the set of a super high production video. A highlight that I can't forget to mention is the whole VeggieTales saga. I repeatedly apologize to viewers who have been recommended the VeggieTales video from me. The whole thing with that, I guess, exploding from, 4,000 views to 4 million views in 2019 was something that I didn't expect, and it's been kind of funny. It's been kind of a meme. Lowlights that I will talk about include just like the, nasty comments that I get, the gross and obsessive comments as well. There's like, some really terrible stuff that I read that just ruins my faith in YouTube comments and has kind of made it a place that I don't really want to read through a lot. Having said that though, there are lots of good comments, probably outweighing the bad ones, like 10 to 1. And thank you to the people who do leave really nice and encouraging comments, because I guess the existence of those is what enables me to not take these horrible ones very seriously. While I was still a PhD student and while I was starting to grow my YouTube channel, I guess what I was doing was going to the lab and being at uni all day, working on my PhD all day, and then working on my videos at night and on weekends, and really trying to be efficient and squeezing it into my spare time. So I was kind of getting both done, but I knew that, I was really stretching my time thin. And I guess I thought that when I left my PhD that I would free up these huge chunks of time during the day that I would be able to just spend on videos. So I'd be able to do videos all day as well as all night, and maybe, with that same intensity. But that's not what I found happened. I guess I left my PhD, so I was no longer doing that. But I don't think the amount of work extra that I was able to spend on videos really entirely replaced the time that I was spending on the PhD. I think, if anything, I was still just working on videos at about the same rate, like getting them out and uploaded. Maybe they were slightly higher quality, and I definitely couldn't have done as many if I'd still been a student. But I also think I just increased the amount of time that I wasted or procrastinated or did other things, some of which were good and some of which were probably a waste of time. So that is something that I kind of dislike about the last year, is that I feel like I kind of wasted a lot of time, especially because my expectations were so high. I thought if I don't have this PhD to do it all, I'll be able to spend so much time every day on videos. But I guess it didn't have the same intensity of working on it when it was no longer a side hobby, and when I had all day to do videos, I guess I didn't spend all day doing videos. But yeah, I don't know if that's good or bad, but that's just a thought that I've had. I have been plagued by a bit of anxiety this year, both related to being a YouTuber and completely unrelated. But overall, I'm really happy with where I am, and I'm just excited to keep doing the same thing and keep doing what I'm doing for this next year and into the future. So I'm going to answer now a few more specific questions. The number one question when I tell people I'm pursuing being a YouTuber is like, how do you get paid? And so I thought I'd briefly mention that. And the way that I am able to, continue making videos on this channel is that I make money from AdSense, so that is directly scaled with views, and it's just directly from YouTube themselves, from the ads that play before videos or around videos. I generally don't put mid-rolls in just because I don't know, I don't really like mid-rolls myself, and I feel like if I can avoid putting them in most cases, then I just will. But there's that, and then there are sponsors as well. You've probably seen me do a few sponsored videos. I try not to do too many sponsors. Like, I know some channels do every video sponsored, and I'd probably make a lot more money if I accepted a lot more sponsorships. But I try to just keep it at the minimum that I kind of need to keep the channel alive. And I do only work with brands that I think are spreading something good, are good products, and have the right attitude towards their customers and genuinely want to support learning content on YouTube. I also made a Patreon account, and you can support me there if you want to directly support the channel. Another question I got is, what does a day in your life look like? And I kind of find this a bit hard to answer because sometimes I'm not even really sure myself. But the most probably average day that I could give you is that if I'm working on a video, working on anything from planning the video, which can take a while, like especially if it contains math or physics ideas that I don't want to get wrong, like a proof or something, I'll try and do a bit of reading about it. There's also the time it takes to come up with a good topic, which I think is most of the success of the video determined by. So I'm always actually thinking about, trying to come up with good topics and trying to maybe do a bit of market research, I guess you'd call it, to see how I think they do on YouTube before I make them. But then I do everything myself in my videos. Occasionally I will have a cameraman if you see the handheld shots, but other than that, it'll be me who does the research, the idea, the filming, the editing, which takes longer than filming, and I always film way more footage than I end up using by quite a big factor. So I'll edit that down, uploading it and promoting it and trying to engage with the audience a bit. And just generally, replying to emails and doing everything around uploading videos, because there's a surprising amount of random tasks that I find come into this job. And if I'm not doing any of that, then I'll be doing some other random thing, maybe writing, which is something I haven't made the most progress with, but will continue to do, and hopefully I can share with you eventually. The next idea I want to cover is, what do I miss about my PhD, if anything? And there are things that I miss, being a PhD student is a whole lifestyle. You have your friends and your lab mates and everything like that, and I guess I had to step back from all of that, which was a bit sad. And I do miss that social aspect of having people to work with and having lab mates and people that are just in it together. I do probably get a little bit lonely just making videos by myself, but yeah, that's one thing. And also just the facilities that you get when you're at uni, whether that's literally the labs and the microscopes and stuff, and just the access to all the cool stuff in the lab, which can come in useful. I miss that, but also things like the uni library and the ability to check out, books that would otherwise be really expensive, but you can get on your student card. So yeah, there's things I miss, but they're not that big, and I definitely, they're not big enough to want to go back to it. I'm really enjoying what I'm doing, and I'd probably miss the freedom of this much more if I was ever to go backwards. So am I ever thinking about going back to my PhD? The answer is right now no. I'm just not. I think that I'm only still kind of just getting started with what I'm doing. I've still got so many ideas I want to do. I'm still so excited to try so many more things. And yeah, I'm far from running out of ideas or anything like that. And the last thing I want to talk about is the question, do I think other PhD students should quit, and when should they quit? Now, I could give some kind of fuzzy advice along the lines of, it's a shame to be spending your time working on something that's not right for you, and if it's not right for you, you should leave. But maybe if you're in this situation, you don't know if it's right or wrong for you, and you just don't know if you're on the right path. And of course, if you were on the wrong path, you would leave, but you don't know if you're on the wrong path. Well, I think maybe some more solid advice that I realized is, you probably do know some of your strengths, and you know what you're good at, and you've had enough experience at things to know, what your strengths are. And hopefully you can tell whether or not your PhD or your job or whatever program it is using those strengths and is allowing you to use those strengths and combine those strengths and the skills that you know that you have. And if it's not bringing out the best in you and the things that you're best at, then you probably should leave. Like, I guess, one of my strengths that I thought was really important to me was the ability to be creative and combine art and science, and that's what I really love doing. And whilst I was kind of good at the stuff I was doing in my PhD, it wasn't using my best strengths. And so I think, I knew what my strengths were, and I wasn't using them, and now I think I'm using them a lot more. So maybe, that is some more solid advice to find out if you're on the wrong path or the right path, and then you can decide what to do about it. So thanks for listening to this video, and again, thank you to all my viewers and supporters for making this year possible for me, and I'm excited for what we can do together this year. Thanks.